Hi, I'm Owen Fitzpatrick, author of the book The Charismatic Edge and creator of the online Charisma Training Academy. And welcome to your first free video, and you've got 4 more after this. Your first free video all about the fundamentals of influence. What I'm going to be taking you through in each one of these videos is exactly what are the things that you must know about influencing other people if you want to be at your best. I've been lucky enough to work with some top billionaires and some top CEOs of some of the most important companies in the world. And one of the things that I've found in insights I've gained from working with such people is understanding that primarily one of the things that allows them to be so successful before anything else is their ability to be able to have the right attitude. And so the attitude of influence is, to me, the first fundamental ingredient towards being very successful at persuading people and influencing people. So in this video, I want to share with you what I believe to be the most important things you need to know about how to develop the most powerful attitude of influence. Now, first of all, when I talk about attitude, a lot of times people think that I'm talking about positive thinking. So people will say, well, it's well and good for you to have a positive attitude and your American positive attitude because it's associated with the motivational movement in America. But the reality is different, and you have to be realistic about your opportunities and realistic about what's going to happen in business. We're facing some difficult times, yada, yada, yada. Now, the truth of the matter is that when you start thinking in that way, you're going to find yourself creating more and more obstacles for you. At the same time, I'm not suggesting that you just blindly think in an optimistic way either. What I'm suggesting is when you take control over the most effective attitude you can have, that will allow you to be able to get better results than you could possibly imagine. How do I know this? Well, the top people that I do work with all tend to have certain characteristics in common, certain parts of their attitude in common, which allows them to be successful. And from all the people that I've worked with over the years, I've found that the most successful people, as opposed to the people who don't tend to get great results, they definitely have certain patterns and certain patterning of how they think about themselves, how they think about the world, how they think about the process of success. So I want to share with you, if you want to be as influential as possible, if you want to persuade other people, if you want to be able to convince people to go out on a date, or convince your boss to give you a raise, or to do the best job you can possibly do in terms of at an interview, or to be able to influence your staff to work really, really effectively, or to inspire them, or to be able to make sure that you're able to pitch your idea in a way that makes investors drool. All of those skills, or all of the needs that you have in terms of being able to make those things happen, will be able to be satisfied primarily by being able to adjust the attitude that you go into these interactions with. So what is this attitude I'm talking about? Well, the first most important thing that you need to know in terms of about influence is that whenever you go into a situation that you want to influence the other person, you need to be focused on what is it that they want. So for example, typically in marketing, a lot of people start off and they put out their website and they put on their Facebook page and they start to share what they do. They start to tell people what they do. The problem with that is a lot of people don't care what you do unless they understand whether or not it can help them. So most people, and especially in the modern time, we have very low attention spans. We have a lot of information coming at us, so we have to filter that information very quickly. So we've got to make snap judge decisions. And these snap decisions need to be, I suppose, accounted for in terms of the way in which we present information to our customers or clients or the people we talk to. In other words, we need to be able to grab people's attention very quickly. What this means is you need to focus primarily on what is it that they want. If you can get into the mindset first and foremost of what your customer is thinking, of what your client is thinking, of what the person you're trying to influence is thinking, then you're much more likely to be able to influence them. That's the key critical ingredient towards most influence, is that you need to be paying attention to what's in it for the other person. Whenever you want to get someone to do something, the first thing you've got to ask is, what can you do for them? As in, how will what you want them to do benefit them? So I always suggest to people, and this could be a top leadership courses I deliver, and I work with a lot of different types of business leaders, but the first thing that I teach them is to understand always, whenever they go into an interaction, the first thing they're thinking before anything else is, what does the other person want? What is it that's important for the other person to get? What is it that the other person values? What drives the other person? What motivates the other person? When your first attitude is to walk in and think about the other person's needs and wants and desires and fears and worries, then immediately you're putting yourself in a far more advantageous position. So again, when you're thinking about what they want, the next step is then to think about, well, what you want and what specifically do you want? And once you understand what they want and what you want, the next part is to join the dots. To ask yourself the question, how can I get what I want while helping them get what they want? You see, when you do it that way, you're much more likely to get the result. And a lot of times people think, well, that's common sense, Owen, I totally understand that. The reality is it might be common sense, but it's not common practice. And that's why so few people manage to get the kind of results that they wish to get, that they want to get. So the first part of having an effective attitude is to make sure that you understand what do they want, what do you want, and connect the dots. The more you know about them, the more you know about what's in their mind, the more likely you are to be able to move their mind and change their mind and help them to move in the right direction. Another important aspect of the attitude of influence is to be able to understand that whenever you're communicating with other people, a lot of times you're not going to get the results straight away. So there's all sorts of research out there to suggest that the first so many times that we contact a person, maybe it's, some people say it's 7 times you need to contact a customer in order for them to feel enough trust to buy what it is that you're selling. Some people say it's 10 times, 14 times. The reality is that you need to expect that the first time you approach people, they may not say yes. And the way you respond to that is critical in your success. The people who have the attitude that says, well, you know, that's not fair or that's wrong, and they feel upset and hurt and they take it personally, are the people that never get the result, because they're much less likely to actually learn from the experience and turn things around. But if you've that dogged determination, that sense of perseverance, that sense of understanding that whatever no you get, it's just information which allows you to adapt the style of which you present what it is that you want them to do. If you understand it's just that information and you can figure out a way of changing it and using that information to help persuade them or influence them the next time, you put yourself in a much more likely position to get the result. Getting the term yes said by another person often will require you going through a number of no's. Now, we're not talking about badgering people, we're not talking about hassling people. Instead, what we're talking about is you learning to be able to see every single thing that happens as something that you can use. So the attitude, the second attitude, is that everything is useful. Every response is useful. It can be useful as information or feedback that you can then apply to your approach so you can be more flexible and you can start to present the message in a slightly different way. For example, you're presenting or pitching an idea to investors and you hear some of them saying they are not interested because of one particular aspect. And you know you can take or leave that aspect. So immediately what you do is you talk and you downplay that particular aspect and you focus them on something else that would be of interest to them. And by doing so, you're much more likely to then turn things in your favor. See, so many people start to have one rigid approach of the way that things should work, and they present that, and then when it's given a rejection, then they feel hurt and upset, and they say, that's not right. Whereas instead, the most successful salespeople, most successful persuaders, most successful influencers or leaders are always taking any response they get and learning from it and adapting from it and figuring out exactly what they need to do differently the next time to get the results that they want. And there's one more thing that I want to share with you about the attitude of influence, and that is the importance of something that leads on from where we were, which is the attitude of flexibility. Flexibility is absolutely critical if you want to be really good at influence, because the truth of the matter is there's no such thing as one chat-up line. There's no such thing as one sales pitch. There's no such thing as one interview, prepared script. The truth is that you need to develop the art of flexibility so that every single challenge you come up against, you've got different ways of dealing with it. Every single person in the world can be talked to in a different way that will work for them in the most effective manner. So every time you meet a person, if you use the same pitch with every person, you're going to find yourself getting a small set of results. On the other hand, if you can deal with different people in different ways using lots of flexibility, and you can think differently about how they think, and you can adapt your language and communication based on their culture or background, based upon their beliefs, based upon their skepticism, based upon how difficult they find the information. If you're flexible with the way in which you approach a situation, you're much more likely to get them to change the way they think. Now, this is really, really powerful because it allows you to be able to ensure that even the most difficult people with the biggest objections are people that you can still turn around. And that really allows you to become so much more effective at influencing people and persuading people when you most need to. Now, there's only so much I can tell you at the moment about the attitude of influence, where I'll be teaching a very special seminar on the 4th called The Power of Influence. In this seminar, I'm going to be going in depth into exactly what are the critical ingredients of your attitude of success, the attitude of influence that will allow you to get results, as well as, of course, the economics of influence, the language of influence, the business of influence, and the psychology of influence. But for now, I really hope these 3 tips will allow you to be able to get the kind of results that you want. So in summary, in order to have the most effective attitude of influence, there are three critical attitudes that you need to have, three critical ways of thinking that you need to have. The first is you need to be thinking about what they want, what's in it for them, then what you want, and connect the dots. Always be thinking about what is in it for them whenever you want to present a particular idea. The second is that every single time you hear no, you'll be able to take that as feedback or information. You immediately start to learn from that experience so you can adapt your presentation in the most effective way. And following on from that, it's to be flexible, to make sure that you're flexibly dealing with different people in different ways. You're taking into account the different backgrounds and you're adjusting your message for the people that you communicate with. If you remember those three fundamentals, you'll find yourself understanding so much more about what you need to understand about the attitude of influence. So I really hope that this video has been valuable for you. The next video, of course, will be looking at the psychology of influence. So please do check that one out, because that's going to be really summarizing many years of study in the areas of how to help people change psychologically. And you're going to learn exactly what you need to do to be able to position yourself and present yourself in a much more effective way. Again, I really hope this video series is of value to you. I would love to see you. But for now, I'm Owen Fitzpatrick. Thanks for watching.